Hello, Smart Chicks. It's Carol Maloney Scott, and I am here today for the 5-day challenge. This is day 3, and wanted to talk to you ladies today about communication. Now, I know you're probably wondering, what does she mean by communication? Those of you who haven't read my book or listened to any of my stuff before probably don't know what I mean by that, right? So what I mean by that, and this is going to distract me, so I have to fix it. What I mean by that is interviewing skills. So interviewing skills are extremely important, and they are something that you can learn, right? So, and beyond interview skills, the reason I call this this module, this talk, what have you, communication, is because when you're looking for a job and you're in that mode, there's more than just interviewing that falls under this umbrella of communication, right? There's more opportunities than just the actual interview, the actual in-person interview, or now, in most cases, a Zoom interview. But there is more than the actual interview that we are looking at as far as opportunities to communicate your worth, communicate your skills, and to sell yourself, right? So the point that I really want to drive across initially in this conversation, and we are going to talk about here, I have my little index cards, my handy dandy top 10 favorite interview tips I'm going to share with you today. But in addition to that, I want to talk a little bit just first about every conversation about jobs is an interview when you're looking for a job. And I would even venture to say even when you're not looking for a job, right? Because complaining about your job to everyone you meet is not a way to get people to want to help you. It is not a way to get people to be interested in you and to think of you when they know about a job opening, right? If they think of you as being a negative, miserable, unhappy person, who blames others and complains and bitches and moans about their job all the time, to everyone who'll listen, they're not going to think of you, oh, I know this really great person, when they know about a job opening, or they know, somebody who might be a good contact for you, right? So anytime you're talking to anybody, and particularly when you're in a very active job search, right? When you're in a very active job search, it's top of mind, right? You're thinking about it all the time. So when you go to the dentist, if the dental hygienist says, hey, what's new with you? Or you go to drop your children off for a play date, or, and again, I know some of these things we might not be doing right now, but you talk to the neighbor at the mailbox when you go to get the mail. How's everything going? Are you working from home? Blah, 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 so right now there's a lot of conversation around work, right? And a lot of people are out of work. So I think it's something that certainly will come up organically in a lot of conversations that you have with people. And that's great. You should be telling the people in your network, everyone, not just people that are in your professional network, but everyone that you meet, that it makes sense if you're having a conversation with them about personal things, to tell them, that you are looking for a job. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's actually a really great thing to do, because you never know who that person might know. You never know who other people know, right? Somebody could clearly not work in your industry or not have anything to do with you and what you do and what you're interested in. However, maybe they know somebody who does. They may have a spouse or a partner or a friend or a sister or a mother or a daughter or something, right? Who knows everything about your thing. Just yesterday on Career Happiness Studio, we were doing our group coaching call, and 2 of the members who had not been on a call together before met, and one of them had a great lead for the other person in her location, even though she didn't live in her location. So I live in a different place. Both of these women live in a different place. And one woman had a great contact, like a really great contact for the other woman in the other woman's location. So it was just like, wow, they met in 5 minutes, and now, a connection has been made to help one of the people. So I love that. And I think that, it's exciting to see that. So we want to make sure that we always talk to everybody that we can about our job search and what we're doing, right? But we want to be positive always in those conversations. And right now I have a little dog who's annoying me, and I need to pick up. See, I let him stay for mommy's call, and now he's misbehaving, so I'm going to pick him up. This is what happens in life, right, when we work from home. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow with Rachel Cook, although she's not going to talk about how to handle your pets. She's going to talk about your children. These are my children. So every conversation about jobs is an interview. So you want to think about the fact that you're on an interview and think like you're on an interview, right? And have that interview face on, that interview mentality on every time you talk to anybody about a job, and anybody that, anybody that calls you out of the blue. Recruiters are going to call you if you have your resume out there. People are going to get your information, right, if you have your resume out there. So are you going to always get calls that are 100% pertinent for what you want to do? No, you will not. Sometimes you will feel like everyone that's calling you in a given day or week is wasting your time and calling you about dumb things that you have no interest in. You may even feel some of them are scammy. You're not sure what's going on, right? But if somebody is a legitimate recruiter or, hiring manager, and they've come across your resume and maybe you're just not interested in their position for whatever reason, you still want to be polite and professional with that person. Don't discount them. Don't blow them off, right? Because they are somebody that you can now make a connection with. Then they may have another role that comes up that is a better fit for you, right? And if you treat them nicely and respectfully, and you're very clear about what you want, and you're very positive with them, and you don't complain about your current job, you're likely to be able to, hold on to that connection and maybe be able to utilize it later. So it's very important to remember that. Every conversation that you have about your job search with anyone is an interview. And that will help to also train your mind to think in those terms, right? And that when you go on an actual interview, you're not feeling, you're not having all that negativity come up. And also, the more you talk about your job search negatively, the harder it is, right? It does not help you in the least. And I know it's very frustrating. Believe me, I've been there. I know it's very, very frustrating and oftentimes painful when you're in job search mode and you're not finding what you want and you're not getting the responses you want. And that's why I love the work that I do so much, because I see sometimes the simplest things that we can do with someone's resume, LinkedIn profile, or even just their mindset and attitude, or their time management, or just their planning, or just getting past a stuck point, right, can really help them to figure out what they want to do, and then therefore can move this process through more simply. But I know it's a difficult process, but I will tell you though that interviewing is a learned skill. You can learn to become a better interviewer, and I think a lot of people also say, oh, I'm just not good at interviewing, or I'm an introvert, or I get nervous. You know what? We all get nervous when we go on an interview. I mean, I am probably one of the most extroverted people you'll ever meet. And, even though it was hard for me to get over this fear of doing video, I've never been afraid to talk to people. I've never had any fear of talking to people in person, going anywhere. I could go somewhere by myself. I joined a singles meetup group, 10 years ago. And, I went to events by myself and just put myself out there. I did a lot of online dating when I was single. When I was divorced, I joined all sorts of other social meetup groups, women's groups and things. So, I've joined a million things, met a million people. I'm not shy at all, but you know what? Interviewing makes me nervous. If I had to go on an interview now, I wouldn't be thrilled about it. So I get it. It's a scary thing, but it is a learned skill, and we can learn how to do it better. So I'd like to talk with you ladies today about, I have, these top 10 interviewing tips. Now, of course, there's a lot to this topic, right? There are a million books written on it. There are a million interview coaches out there. There are a million people that can help you with this. Interviewing is something that is huge right now, right? It's a huge topic. If you Google interviewing skills, I don't know, you'll get 100 million hits, so just be careful when you are looking at advice about interviewing. Look at where it's coming from. Is it coming from someone that has experience interviewing people? Is it coming from somebody who, just knows what they're talking about? Or is it just, coming from a weird source, and when you start to get a lot of conflicting information, that can be confusing as well. So I would just, I caution you to be careful, who you're taking your interviewing advice from, and make sure you don't let yourself get too overwhelmed with too much information. Now, I also offer interviewing sessions as part of my one-on-one coaching. I do, of course, larger 3-month coaching packages for people that want to go through the whole process and want support through, the conception of their idea of what their target is, through working through all their job search assets, through actually applying for jobs and support through that process. So I do that in my one-on-one coaching, my 3-month program, but I also have shorter term options available for people that just want to buy, a resume refresh, an interviewing session, whatever session with me. And all that information is in the file section in the Smart Chicks Career Club group. There's a pricing list and a list about my one-on-one coaching. So that's something you might want to consider as well. If you don't really feel like you need a full coaching package, you could go that route. And also, of course, Career Happiness Studio, we're doing a mock interviewing workshop this month. So if you join Career Happiness Studio, that's something that you could get involved in as well. I'm going to do those probably once a month now because I think that they're really needed for people to have the opportunity to practice their interviewing skills with me and others. So we're going to do that. And then, there's also, all the modules in Career Happiness Studio for you to go through on your own. And also we do, the group coaching calls and, so a ton of support there as well. So just wanted to let you ladies know about that stuff. So let's look at my top 10, right? So I don't know if my top 10 is as funny as like the talk show host, but probably not, but I'm going to try. So now it's going to thunder and I'm going to remove this little guy from the room. I will be right back because he is going to bark and bark and bark. Oh, I'm sorry, sweetie. You're going to have to stay down here now with Daisy. Because I can't have that. No. My apologies. I like to let him stay in the room when he wants to because he's so cute, as you can see, and he loves to be with his mommy. But yeah, he's going to start barking, and then the other dog downstairs is going to start barking, and then it's going to be Bark Fest 2020 in here, and that's not going to help you with your interviewing skills. So my apologies. We're all trying to figure out life right now, right? So I hope you forgive me for indulging my little dog. So number 1, do your homework. There is no excuse in today's world to not research the company, even the people on LinkedIn, if you know their names, that you're going to be interviewing with. You should know about the company. You should look at what's going on with the company in the news. Anything that you can find out about the company from anybody that you might know that works there, or you might know that knows someone who works there, or, even your LinkedIn contacts. It makes the interviewer, interviewers and people, companies are made up of people. I say this all the time, right? The interviewer is just a person. So therefore, it makes them feel good to know that you found out something about them maybe, or you took the time to find out about their organization and really dig into that, and that you really are interested in their organization, not just in getting any job, right? If you can talk about something that the company is doing in the news, maybe they won an award recently, maybe they're building a new facility, maybe they've won a contract, whatever the case may be. I'm sorry about the barking in the background. They are really loud down there because they're really upset because there's rumblings outside. More thunderstorms coming for the next, 100 days. It's really exciting. So hopefully we won't lose power. I'll try to talk fast. So it makes the interviewers feel special. It makes them feel like you really care about this position specifically, but also it's really just good information. Not only is it good to impress the interviewer, but it's good information for you, right? Especially if you don't know a lot about the company. Maybe you find out something about the company that is either super great and now you're even more excited about interviewing there, or maybe you find out something about the company that's not so great. Maybe something about a lawsuit that's facing them, or something about their values, or, maybe their leaders, that in the news, that doesn't resonate with your values or what you're interested in. So it's good to know that as well. So do your homework, do your research, and make sure you go in prepared to know something about the company. Number 2, it's an interview. It's not a friendly chat. Some interviewers are not very good at their job, right? They're not very good interviewers, and they don't really know what to ask, and they don't ask the best questions. Now, of course, they're hurting themselves and their organization by doing that, right? Because they're not effectively assessing whether or not the candidates are a good fit for the role. So obviously that's not good for them, but it's not good for you, obviously, as the candidate either. So one of the things that I want you to think about is if you see that the interviewer is kind of turning the interview more into a friendly chat than an interview, like, oh, we just had a nice conversation, but what does that mean? You didn't get a chance to, sell yourself. You didn't get a chance to tell them all the stories that you prepared that you want them to know about and all the answers to the behavioral interview questions that they're now not asking. So you want to be able to, you want to make sure that you don't let the interview get off track. You can certainly make and or indulge in brief personal remarks. Maybe they've looked at your LinkedIn profile or social media accounts and they see that you have something in common with them. They might want to mention that. That's fine, but you really want to try to take some leadership of the interview as well and steer it back towards the purpose of the interview if you feel like the interviewer is really veering off course. Obviously a small personal connection is okay. You're a person, they're a person. Like I said, people hire people. It's nice for them to like you, right? So you certainly want to smile a lot, be likable, be friendly. You don't want to just be so serious that you shut down any personal, chit chat that they want to have. But you really just want to make sure you don't let it devolve into that because you're not going to be able to sell them on your candidacy. And even though it's really their fault, they're not going to look at it as their fault. When they think about who they want to hire for the position, they're going to think, wow, I really liked her, but she really didn't tell me anything. And they're not going to blame themselves and say, oh, it's because I didn't ask her anything. They're probably going to somehow negatively judge you for that as the candidate. So, there are many bad interviewers. And the other thing that's bad is that when you devolve into too much personal remarks, you teeter then on the edge of getting into talking about things that are also none of the business of the interviewer or even things that are illegal to ask about, right? Like pregnancy, marital status, plans on having more children, how many children you currently have, your religion, your political affiliation, all these things that are personal things that they may have gleaned from either someone who knows you or maybe, someone who recommended you or maybe, on your social media profiles and things like that. That's why also we need to be very careful what we post on social media publicly because people can find that information and now they know that about you. And in some cases, unfortunately, it can be used against you. There's conscious bias and there's unconscious bias. And even though it's illegal, we all know that it still happens. So, would just be aware of that as well. Number 3, attitude is, and I put in parentheses, almost everything, because obviously it's not everything, right? You need to have the skills to do the job and you need to be able to prove that. But your qualifications certainly matter the most. But again, people hire people. So you want to smile. You want to be likable. Sometimes when people are nervous on an interview, they forget to smile. They forget to be human. They go into robot mode. They're sitting there like, okay, I'm waiting for the question. I'm waiting for the question. And, like they're being interrogated and the light bulb's over them. And someone's going to say, where were you on the night of the murder? And that's not, you don't want to act like that because it also is very off-putting to the interviewer because they're thinking if this person is this stressed out about the interview, and this nervous that, they can't relax and act like a person, A, how are they going to be under stress on the job? B, are they just a weird person who's not very personable and how's that going to work, in our company culture? Or C, like the interviewer may think like, what am I doing to make this person feel this way? Maybe we're just not gelling. Maybe the person doesn't like me, and that's not good either. So you want to be your personal self. The most important thing though, is that you want no negativity. Now, of course, you want to dress professionally. You want to look professional, whatever that is for you, as far as your grooming is concerned. You want to dress for success. And look nice and, look as presentable as you can and, as engaging as you can. It's not a beauty contest, but, we certainly want to put our best foot forward with our appearance, when we go on any kind of an interview. But the most important thing is no negativity. If you're leaving your job because you hate your boss, because you've been treated unfairly, because everybody sucks, I get it. Believe me, I've been there. However, the problem is the interviewer doesn't know you and also doesn't know your boss. Probably. In some cases they might know your boss, right? If they're in an industry that you're in, they actually do know the person you used to work for. So that's another thing to be careful of. You never know who knows who, right? It's a very small world now. People move all over the place. People work remotely. People move around a lot, just job to job. So we want to be very careful always and check our negativity at the door. I realize that sometimes it's very difficult to do that because it is what's fueling your job search. It's almost like the passion that's fueling your job search sometimes is how much you hate your current job, or even if you've been laid off or let go, how much you hate the job you just left, or how angry you are about that situation that just happened to you. But the bottom line is, no matter how badly you're feeling about that, no matter how badly you're being treated or you feel that you're being treated, hey, Jan, you don't want to put any doubt in the mind of the interviewer that maybe you're the problem, right? Because they don't know you. And we all know people that complain about situations and people, that they're in situations with. And maybe you know both people, and you know that the person who's complaining to you is just as much at fault, if not more at fault, than the person they're complaining about, right? I mean, that happens to us a lot in, friend circles and in work circles, right? And just listening to gossip and people complaining about others and situations, we know that, there's two sides to every story, right? So you can't assume that the interviewer is going to sympathize with you because they don't know you. And what they may be thinking is, wow, you're unhappy there, you hate those people, maybe you'll hate me, or maybe you'll hate us too. Maybe you're just a person that is difficult to work with, and that's why things aren't working out for you. And I know that's probably not the case, and I get that, I've been there. However, you have to think about it from the other person's perspective. And if someone was presenting that type of negativity to you, like, how would you feel, right, if you were the interviewer? Number 4, this is a key one, of course, know your stories. Behavioral interviewing questions are the norm today, especially with anybody who actually knows how to interview or is going to ask you some questions. So you want to be prepared and you want to know. So when I say know your story, so what are the key things they're looking for in this job? And what are the key experiences that you've had, and particularly results and accomplishments that you've had around those key competencies that they are going to be looking for, right? So you want to do that assessment before the interview based on the job description. Maybe you've had a pre-screen call with a recruiter. Maybe you've had a phone interview with somebody, to see if you're a good fit to move forward in the process. You want to use all that information, research that you've done, right? All this intelligence that you've gathered, you want to use to help craft the stories in your mind of what you want them to know. Now, of course, they need to ask you a question, right, that prompts those answers, right? Yes and no. So obviously, if they do ask a question that prompts you to use one of those examples, then terrific, right? You use that example. The worst thing you can do, though, is not figure out a way to weave those stories in, even if you were not asked point blank a question that helps you to share that information. So you need to look for ways, especially if it's really vital information and the interviewer is not asking about it. It's very important that you figure out a way to weave in that vital information. Sometimes it's even towards the end when they ask if you have questions, or in the wrap up, you might need to weave it in. But if you can try to figure out how to organically weave in those key stories and points throughout the interview, that's going to help you sell yourself the best. Number 5, because I need a job is not an answer to any question, nor is I'll do anything or any of those things. We just had Keisha on the other day, our recruiter friend, and she was talking about, and this happened to me all the time when I was a recruiter, people would say, I'll do anything. So what type of position are you looking for, Jan? I'll do anything, right? Would you say that? No, of course not. And Keisha's example was funny because she said, really, will you come to my house and mow my lawn? And it's like, no. So no, don't say you'll do anything. So by saying that you'll do anything, or that you just need a job, or, that anything that shows that you're desperate, I just want to get back to work, I need to make money, I need to be working, any of those types of statements all reek of desperation. Do we want to hire someone who is desperate? No, we don't. I always use the dating analogy. Do you want to date someone who really wants to be with you for specific reasons that they've thought about and that they've worked through? Or do you want to date someone who just wants a warm body, right? Who just wants to date anybody, right? I just want a girlfriend, or I just want a wife. Like, would you want that person? No, because that person is devaluing themselves, right? What's wrong with them if they really will take anything, take anyone or anything. What is wrong with them? So that is something that you really have to make sure that you again check that negativity and that desperation at the door. I understand that it's normal to feel that. Again, we're in a pandemic. A lot of people are really panicking. A lot of people are really having a hard time right now, and I respect that, and I understand that, and I have empathy for that. But I am here to tell you, with a little bit of tough love, that when you're in an interview, you are not serving yourself and you're not serving that agenda by showing any of that desperation. So it's very important that you remember that the employer wants you to want their job, right? It's like that old Cheap Trick song, I Want You to Want Me, right? They want you to want them for a reason that you have figured out, right? They want you to want their job. They don't want you to be taking their job just because you need any job, because how motivated are you going to be then? How interested are you going to be in the job? How long are you going to stay in their job, right? They have a different agenda than you. You might have this desperate, I need a job agenda, but they have this, I want to fill this role with the best qualified quality person who is going to contribute at the level that we need and hopefully grow with this company. That's what they want, right? So you have to think like what they want. You have to check your wants and needs at the door when you go in for the interview and think about what the person in front of you wants, right? And they want committed, focused, engaged employees. That's what they want. So that's what you want to be able to communicate to them. And again, this is why I call this communication, right? Because interviewing is communication. You are communicating your worth. You are communicating why you want the job and why they should let you do the job, why they should give you a chance, right? Why out of all the people that they could possibly hire into this role, why are you the one, right? And that's important. So number 6. So I call number 6, why do they have to ask that? And so what I mean by that is the crappy interview questions that everybody hates, right? The hard interview questions. And we're not going to get really deep into this right now because we don't have time. I actually have a previous, I think it was a Career Chat Live that I did. So if you go back and look through the videos in Smart Chicks Career Club, there was actually a video I did where I actually go into answering some of the tough interview questions that come up. But, some of the things that come up are the what is your greatest weakness question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I'm sure many of you have seen that meme on Facebook that says anybody that answered the where do you see yourself in 5 years in 2015 got it wrong, because they didn't see themselves in a pandemic, that kind of thing. Make sure that you don't lie when you're answering a difficult question or just make something up. Don't deflect the question and, I don't have any weaknesses or, things like that. Don't do that. Don't say something, don't say something that's a required skill for the job. If you're asked about the weakness question, and hopefully if you're there interviewing and you really think you're the best qualified person for this job, that's not your weakness, because if it is, you're probably not going to get an offer. Anyway, but the best thing to do is to try to, don't turn a negative into a positive. That's also a cliche with the weakness question, especially, saying, oh, my biggest weakness is I work too hard or, things like that. Because again, that's really deflecting the question, right? So I think the best thing to talk about is something that is not an essential task for the job, but maybe something that you've been trying to work on, something that you have been working on and you've had some success with overcoming. Maybe you're taking a class in something that you know that you'd like to expand on in the future. That shows that you are a person who is growth oriented and that you recognize when you have a weakness or a gap or a deficit and you're willing to do the work to fill that gap, and that you're actively doing that. And then maybe it even could be something that could help you in your development with their company. And then maybe down the road, there could be a role where you use that skill. Think about those types of things before you go in with this weakness question, because it's one that really trips people up. And I think it's a stupid question, honestly, because I think that the interviewer is really just going to oftentimes just get the person flustered. And that really just doesn't help anybody. And it really, and again, whatever they say, if somebody has a really bad weakness that's going to really screw you if you hire them, they're not going to tell you that. They're not going to say, I'm late every day, or I am the most negative person in the world and I will argue with you, till my last dying breath. No one's going to tell you that, right? Where I made up everything on my resume, I don't know anything. No one's going to tell you that. So it's a really stupid question, I think, as an interviewer, but it's one that is still frequently asked by many interviewers. So number 7, it's a two-way street. So what I mean by that is you are interviewing them as well as they are interviewing you. Do not allow the interviewer to have 100% of the power and control of the interview. I think that we look often, especially if we're unemployed, we look upon interviewers, hiring managers, people in these authority positions as people who have like power over us, right? They have the power to give us the job or not give us the job, right? And yes, sure, they do. They have that choice, right? To offer you the job or not offer you the job. But they don't, you are not giving them all of your power just because you need their job. You're not giving away your power. You don't want to do that. It's very important that you ask good questions and that you really think about the fact that you are also interviewing them. Not only do you want to get an offer, you want to make sure that it's a job that you really want to do. And also the interview is your opportunity to learn that, right? If you wait until you get the offer and then you think, wow, I wish I would have asked better questions in the interview because I still don't know this, and this. Now, still, do you have some opportunity maybe to ask those questions after you get the offer? Sure, you might, have that opportunity. But at the same time, it's really good if when you get an offer, you really do have a pretty well-informed opinion of whether or not you want the job, right? If the offer is a good offer, if they're offering you the salary and the benefits and all the things that you want. So it's your job in the interview to not give away all of your power and to ask good questions and to come prepared and to claim, time for that, to claim time to get your questions answered. If you're not given that time, to me, that's a huge red flag. And that's probably not a place that you want to work. Number 8, what's in it for me should be the last thing you talk about. So I want to just touch briefly on that, on the salary issue and, anything to do with the what's in it for me piece of this, right? We're going to talk about compensation tomorrow in this day 4 of this challenge. Tomorrow we're going to talk about compensation and salary negotiations. So I'm not going to go too deeply into that now. But one thing I want to say about that is that the time to talk about salary and benefits and what's in it for you and all of that stuff, right? Anything that's a what's in it for you question. The time for those questions is really after you've convinced them that you're the best qualified candidate, right? If you lead with those types of questions, it makes you look selfish, greedy. It makes you look like you don't care about the organization you work for. All you care about is what you can get, right? Not what you can contribute. Guess what? That's not what they're interested in. They're interested in what you can contribute, right? So I'm not saying those things aren't important. Obviously, they're extremely important, but you need to be patient and you need to insert those things into the conversation at the appropriate time. Now, if you're asked about those things in an interview, certainly then you can talk about them, but you should not be bringing that up. I can't tell you how many times as a recruiter that I would call someone. And this goes back to my point about how anybody that you're talking to in the job search process, you need to check yourself and think about how you're treating that person, how you're talking to that person. Keisha touched on that too, how a lot of people are very disrespectful to recruiters who call them, and especially if they call them about something, they ask, Jennifer, we're going to talk about compensation tomorrow. Hi, how are you? We're going to talk about compensation tomorrow, but one thing I can say is you really can't avoid the question. So don't avoid the question. If they ask you about compensation, you need to answer the question. You can go back and listen to Keisha's interview about interviewing that we did the other day. Well, actually about working with recruiters that we did the other day, but it is not smart to try to avoid that question. The concept of whoever says a number first loses, I think, is an antiquated concept. I think it's stupid. And I think that if somebody is trying to lowball you on an offer because, by asking you that question that way, that they are not someplace that you want to work again, because I have been a recruiter. I was a recruiter for many years, many different organizations. I never worked anywhere where the reason for that question was to give somebody less money. The reason for that question usually is just because they want to see if they're wasting your time or if they're wasting their time or their hiring manager's time. So we're going to go into more detail about that tomorrow, but I think you said you had an interview today, and I think you probably are waiting for someone to ask you that question. So I want to just address that now because I know that's real time for you. Potentially, I don't know what time your interview was. You might have already had it. But the question about compensation really, truly is to screen out the people who, if they know the job isn't going to pay more than $100,000 and the person wants $300,000, there's no reason for that conversation to continue. So the best answer to the compensation question really, though, is that I don't know enough about the role right now and the full package of what your organization offers to, pinpoint an exact number, but I will tell you that I am looking for roles in the range of, X to Y. Give them a broad range because their salary bands are probably pretty broad as well. And then I would just say something along the lines of, when I have more information about, if we move forward in the process and I have more information about the role and the scope of the role and the duties and responsibilities, I'll have a better idea then of what I'm really looking for. And that's, are you rescheduled for next week? Okay, so that's good. So listen to my compensation talk tomorrow because we're going to get into this some more. We'll get into that more deeply. But yeah, the bottom line is don't avoid any questions. You cannot avoid any questions. You have to deal with them. Now, if somebody asks you an illegal question, you have a choice there. You can answer the question. You can tell them, you certainly, if you tell them it's an illegal question, you're not getting the job. I mean, you're not. But if they're asking you an illegal question and that's something that's really offensive to you and that you're really worried about that and you're not willing to give them a pass on that because maybe they're just a dumb interviewer and they don't know what they're doing, it's probably not, again, the place that you want to work, because why are they asking that? If they're asking you, how many children you have, and what they really want to know is if you can work the scheduled hours. They need to be asking you if you can work the scheduled hours, not how many children you have, because anybody could have a problem working the scheduled hours, not just mothers or fathers, right? Also, that question is generally more asked of women than men. So you just want to make sure you don't avoid any question. All questions are being asked for a reason, and you want to answer them to the best of your ability. So we're going to talk about compensation more tomorrow. So I hope that helps you right now, Jennifer, but tune in tomorrow at noon if you can. And if not, all these calls are recorded. So, if there's one you can't make, please get in there. Jane. Hi, Jane. I was asked whether I have children. Yeah. People will ask you that, and unfortunately, if you're a woman, you'll probably be asked that the rest of your life. Maybe when we're like 70, they'll assume we don't have children that are young enough, to take care. But we can expect to be asked that question. Unfortunately, yeah, and it is very much, as you know, Jane, as an attorney, a very illegal question. And also a very dumb question, but you really do also have to balance sometimes. So that, whether or not that's a red flag for you or not. So number 9 actually leads us to the perfect thing, because number 9 on my list is red flags wave high, don't miss them. And what I mean by that is, there are a lot of things that somebody might say that really are red flags. And, again, I always use that dating analogy, right? And they always say, people tell you who they are. You just have to choose to believe them, right? And I think we've all lied to ourselves about people and situations and jobs and mates and partners. They want to know what Jennifer just said. I did an application the other day where they asked if I was over or under 40. Wow. That is so incredibly blatantly illegal. I can't believe it. All right, Jennifer, privately, I would like you to tell me who that was, and I won't share it, in any calls or lives or anything, but I have to know who that is, because that is unfreaking believable. I have never seen that once, and that's really bad in 2020. Horrifying. But yeah, so you want to be on the lookout for things like that. That's a red flag. Why the hell would anybody want to ask you on an application if you're over or under 40? What does that have to do with working for the company in any capacity? And I actually had another friend of mine who was told that she dressed too old for her job and that she needed to dress younger. So, these types of discriminatory practices, while they are illegal, they do happen in the workplace. So, we can choose to complain about them. We can choose to be unhappy about them. We can choose to go into victim mode over them, or we can choose to do what my friend did, which is quit and go find a better job that valued her years of experience and did not require her to be in a fashion show, because it wasn't a fashion-oriented business anyway. So we need to draw lines in the sand, and I think that's what I mean about these red flags. So if someone is inappropriate, if they make you feel yucky, if you're interviewed by someone and you feel like, I don't feel comfortable with this person, I don't like the way they're making me feel. You don't have to love everyone, and that's unrealistic to love everyone, right? And, I have a client right now that's interviewing with 7 different people at a company. It's a lot of people. Is she going to love all 7 of those people? I don't know. She might not, right? Or she might not be sure about all 7 of those people. So, you have to balance it out with reality. But you have to remember that, yes, you want an offer, and of course getting an offer is the goal of going on the interview, right? But is it really? I would say that is not the primary goal, at least not the beginning. The primary goal is still fact finding, information gathering, because you still don't know enough about this job to know whether or not it's really the right role for you. And I understand if you're unemployed and you are really desperate for income and that's a problem for you. I understand how sometimes we can just accept a job, and then sometimes I call that the just good enough job, right? We need to get a job because we just need income coming in, and then we look for still the job that's the dream job or the job we really want to do. But I still caution you, even if you are unemployed, to rush the process, because you're just going to be repeating the process again. And when I posted in our group about on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel about job searching as far as how much stress it causes you, 10 being the most stress, I had everybody said somewhere between 8 and 10. I had one person on LinkedIn say, I think 15 or something. So job searching causes people a lot of stress, even when there's not a pandemic. It causes people a lot of stress, especially unemployed people, underemployed people, and unhappily employed people, right? Which is most of who's looking for a job, right? So, I get it. It's really upsetting, but you're only going to put yourself right back in the same position again in a short period of time, or you're going to get yourself trapped in a situation now where you feel like you can't quit, because if you quit, you can't get unemployment again, and you can't, you're putting yourself in a worse situation than you were before. And there's nothing worse than being in a situation where you're in a toxic work environment because you haven't really assessed that work environment as part of the interview process. So that's very important. And then finally, number 10, if you want the job, ask for it. And I know that sounds a little forward, right? And a little ballsy, right? To just say, I want the job. Now, I'm not suggesting you jump up out of your seat and scream, I want the job, right? But it's funny. My father was in sales for a very, very long time, his whole career, and my father is a very aggressive New Yorker man. He grew up in the Bronx, and then he moved to Brooklyn, and, he worked in New York City most of his life. And, my mother used to say, you can take the boy out of the Bronx, but you can't take the Bronx out of the boy, and he's an aggressive person. And I am not as aggressive, although I'm very outgoing like he is, but I'm not as aggressive. I'm a little more tempered, a little more sweetness than my father. But, when it comes to business, at least. But so he's pretty tough. And every time I went on an interview when I was a young woman, particularly, he used to ask me, how did the interview go? So he'd want to do an interview debrief with me. And we're going to talk about that before we get off this call too today. And I'd tell him what happened. And he'd say, do you want the job? Do you think it's a good job for you? And I'd say, yeah, I really want the job. And he'd say, did you ask for the order? So that's when he would always lose me, because I don't have a very salesy personality. And I always would say, like, well, no, I asked them, when they were going to follow up, or, something like that. And, he always said, if you want the job, you need to let them know that. You need to say, I'm very excited about this opportunity. I look forward to your decision. I think this will be a great fit for me, something along those lines. We certainly don't want to say, well, did I get the job, or give me the job right now. But we want to make sure that we leave, although maybe my father would have said that. I'm not sure. But what we want to do is we want to leave that person with an impression. If you really do want the job, you want to make that known. It is not going to hurt you in your salary negotiation. It is not going to hurt you, because you're not saying it from a place of desperation. You're not saying, Mr. Interviewer, I desperately need a job, so I really hope you give me this job, because if you don't, I'm going to die. It's not that. It's reiterating to them and kind of recapping the information that you've gleaned from the interview, and it really helps them to see and that you've synthesized the information that you've learned about the job and that you've pulled that all together, and that now you are even more convinced, that this is the right role for you and that you're the right person for the job. And you can tell them why, right? So you can tell them why. And it's not just, oh, I just want a job, I need a job. It's now I really know for sure, Mr. Interviewer, now that we're done with this, or Miss Interviewer, I know that, that this is why I want the role. And even when you send a thank you note, that's what the thank you note really is. It's reiterating that, right? It's reiterating to them and summarizing to them why you think you're a good fit, what you learned from the interview that supports that, and so that they know that you are interested. They are more likely to offer a candidate a position if they think the candidate's going to take it. I've seen this in negotiations a million times with hiring managers. As a recruiter, there's several different candidates who've interviewed. They've all done pretty well. And then we'd say, okay, who are we offering the job to? Well, I really liked Bob, but I don't think he's going to take it. But then I really liked Joe. I really liked Pam. I don't know. I don't think she's going to take it either, because what they don't want to do is they don't want to offer the job to somebody that doesn't want it, because guess what? That person might not decline immediately. That person might now delay the process of them getting a person in. That person might take the job, accept the offer, and renege on it. That happens a lot. So knowing that you really want the job and that you really think it's a good fit for you and you're very serious about it, entertaining an offer, is a good thing for them to know. It's a very good thing for them to know. And it also shows that you know how to close the deal, and especially depending on the type of role you're looking for. I mean, if you're in any kind of sales or marketing or any kind of business related type interview, for sure, you want to show that, you're business minded and this is a business transaction and you know how to close the deal, right? And you know how to get what you need. And also, how to provide what is needed, because remember, again, it's a two-way street. So the interview debrief is very important. So whether you do that with me, if you're, my one-on-one client, or you're in Career Happiness Studio, or, you do it with, a trusted friend or colleague, somebody that is good at interviewing, or somebody, just a sounding board, somebody you think might, be able to listen or give you some feedback on what was said. The other reason it's really good is just write stuff down right after the interview. That's even your own debrief. Just write stuff down that the person said that you want to remember. Maybe a question that was difficult for you, and then maybe do some research about how to better answer that question next time. Bring it to our group. Bring it to these types of calls when we have them. Again, if you're in Career Happiness Studio, that's something that you put in the group coaching call Q&A thread and say, hey, I want to talk about this in our next group coaching call. Those calls are for the members, and I don't dictate the topics of those calls. It's whatever everybody wants to talk about is what we talk about in real time. And that's why when I saw that Jennifer said, asked me a question about interviewing, it even really immediately made me think of real time, because I'm like, oh, wait, I think she said she had an interview. So, and Jennifer is not even a member of Career Happiness Studio, but she's here in Smart Chicks Career Club, and, she's communicated that to the other Smart Chicks and to me that that's happening, so we're able to give her support. So get that debrief done, because you can learn a lot from what either went well or what didn't go well. And really, you should have a notebook devoted to this when you're job searching, where you really keep all of your job searching information in one place, and you have these notes to refer back to for when you go on the next interview, and whether it's the next level interview with that same company for that same role. Certainly, then you really want to do that debrief, or even if it's just and don't wait until after you get or don't get the job either. That's another thing people do. They wait until they didn't get an offer, right? Until they find out. Maybe that's 2 weeks later. Do you remember everything that happened in that interview now? Can you really say why you think it went wrong and really learn from that? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe you've had other interviews since then. Maybe a lot of things have happened in your life since then. Maybe you don't have that great a memory, or maybe you were really nervous and it made you not have that good a memory, whatever. So the best time to write that stuff down, how when you have a dream, you don't remember it later in the day, but you remember it so vividly when you first wake up, and they say you should write it down right away because you're going to lose it later. That happens because, there's a lot of adrenaline and there's a lot of stress involved with interviewing for most people. And whether it's, excited adrenaline or scared adrenaline, there's a lot of that, nerves, just pumped up emotion around the interviewing process. So you want to do that debrief right away. So let me know, ladies, if you have any questions about interviewing or communication around your job search, because it is communication day in Smart Chicks Career Club. So if you have questions, you can post them, in this video thread here, or you can post them anywhere. You can start a thread as long as it's a career-related thread and it's a question or a comment or something you want to share about career-related topics. You are welcome to start a thread anytime you want in the group, and we will all interact with you. And that's another way to get to know the other Smart Chicks really well. And to get to know me better as well. And I get to know you too. So it's pretty awesome. I think we're only like 6 people away from 1,000 members also in Smart Chicks Career Club. And I'm crazy, 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 crazy excited about that. So that's going to be a big, huge, exciting announcement as well. Oh, I'm glad, Susan. I hope it was helpful for all of you. And I will see you guys later. Actually, I will see you guys at 2 o'clock. Anybody that's interested in Career Chat Live, which is our normal Wednesday call. I know I could have canceled that this week because I already did all this talking. But I'm going to do more talking in an hour. So I will be back at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and we're going to talk about what to do in the first 30 days of a new job and how to be successful with that. So, you're very welcome, Lynn, and I will see you ladies then. And wow, we got some big rumblers out there. So hopefully if I lose power, I will see you ladies on my cell phone, not on here. So we'll talk to you soon. Bye.